What's up, my lovelies? How are we doing tonight? Be sure to join. Thank you, OU Mensa. How you doing? Thanks for joining. Abby, thank you for joining. Um, we'll just start off. How's everyone doing tonight? Be sure to check in. If you pop in, just tell me where you're at. Don't give me your address. Hi, OU Mensa. How you doing, Pat? Thanks for joining. Yeah, just tell me where you're at. Go Poke 79. Okay, we got a OSU boy up in here now. Twitter's on fire right now. I'm like 7 people are having an expansion conference realignment conversation on my timeline. Feed me or not, Scott. I'll feed you knowledge. I'll feed you anything. But thanks for joining. I appreciate it. What is going on? Wow. It's like a mile a minute. Colonel Sooner. That is so weird. Why does it always black? The screen goes black for a split second. It's kind of odd. Anyway. And it's really weird. You want to hear something weird? Sooner fan, okay? Thank you for joining. Buffer, please let me know, and I'll try and rewind. What's really weird is to do the broadcast live on my phone, and then I switch over and look on my computer, and there I am talking, but that was 2 minutes ago. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of that. It's kind of weird. I can only take so much of me. Is the connection weird, everybody? On my end, it looks. I mean, obviously, it looks smooth. And nothing. It's only gone to black once. Everything on my end seems normal. Thank you, Sooner Fan OK, for sharing on Facebook and Twitter. We appreciate that. Don't forget to share on MySpace. Don't forget about that. Okay, everything seems fine now. Awesome. A little, not too bad. Okay, good. Technology sometimes. Had to shut the door this time. My poor dog keeps pacing back and forth wanting to come in here. Anyway. So yeah, the summer, the off season mainly, kind of breeds this whole expansion, conference realignment talk. Thank you. My dog's name is Zelda, by the way, everybody. It keeps freezing. Does anybody have any suggestions how to get around this? Oh, agreed. Derek Morton. Yeah, we need to get him on here. Real quick before we really start your thoughts on the Boomer Sooner issue. Okay, the Boomer Sooner issue. If you're unaware, the University of Oklahoma, their undergraduate students voted today on the issue that the phrase Boomer Sooner is offensive. Now, while it may be offensive to everyone that has to listen to it every 5 seconds during a football game, I don't see how it's really an issue here. It's odd. It's odd to me. It would have been funny had it passed for some reason, because I almost dare them to stop 85,000 people in a football stadium to do not make sure not to say Boomer Sooner. It would have been funny to see, but thankfully it didn't get passed. Sometimes kids are just dumb. Am I talking to myself? Well, in a way, I guess I am, but I'm trying to talk to you all. It is OU's fight song. Yes, it is. So they would probably just have to scratch it and steal another medley from another Ivy League school like they stole Bula Bula. But my day, it was pretty good. Went to work, did some writing, got prepared for the expansion talk. So, listening to that, just one person. Okay. Raider Rantings, welcome to the party. Nice of you to join. Are you going to do your own Periscope soon? Not a lot, brother. Or sister. Probably brother, right? Anyway. Get off. And get new unis too. I'm fine with the uniforms right now. Would be cool. I'm really thirsty, by the way, tonight, if you can't tell. Anyway, I guess, it's been about a few minutes. I guess we can start getting into it. OU Mensa back. Awesome. For OU, for OU to have new uniforms, that's what Sooner Fan OK, I think, is what he was saying. Yeah. Your blue blood programs really shouldn't touch their uniforms. It's okay to have a throwback uniform, or OU has their Bring the Wood jerseys. They're okay. I mean, it's mainly for players and recruits. They like wearing them. They get excited when they wear something different. So it's just a changing generational thing. Thank you for the share on Twitter, Raider Rantings. We appreciate that. But I guess we can just go ahead and start getting into the actual expansion talk. If anything's going to change, I don't really want to talk about schools like OU or Texas going independent or going to a different conference, because that opens up an entirely huge can of worms that would take 2 hours to actually scratch the surface and talk about. So we'll just talk about tonight the expansion of the conference as it is, the Big 12. I think there's two main factors that go into it won't happen. Yeah, I don't think it would. I don't think it's going to. Something is going to happen. Everything is so bogged down in talk and sound bites. And you know things are going on behind the scenes, but when something actually happens, it's probably going to hit the public right upside the head, and no one's going to see it coming. Either someone leaves the conference, or two schools, possibly, just out of nowhere, Florida State decides to drop the ACC. Won't happen, but drop the ACC and come to the Big 12. So it's going to be something like that where we're not expecting it. But anyway, I think there are two main factors that go into Rough Face. Thank you for joining, brother. Thanks for the love. Notre Dame will be forced into full ACC soon enough. Independents can't make enough alone. That's true. Notre Dame needs to stop pussyfooting around. Hey, Rough Face, tell Derek to get a Periscope. I tried to tell him earlier, so let him know that. But anyway, I think there are two main factors that go into expansion for the Big 12. The first one is West Virginia definitely needs a travel buddy. They are hundreds of miles away from their nearest conference foe, being Iowa State. So you definitely need a Midwestern or pseudo-Southeastern conference team. Notre Dame is a cash cow, so many revenue streams, they are decades away from a conference. Notre Dame is a cash cow, but just the way that this game of musical conference chairs is going, I feel like they kind of see that college football is changing. It's not like the 40s and the 50s when they were the golden child. But Cincy and UConn both have horrible warts. UConn, yes. I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way. There are a few schools that I wrote down that I am absolutely against joining the Big 12. And by the way, West Virginia is an awesome atmosphere in football. Yes. I can just tell that by watching it on TV. And I wrote down the teams that I definitely, in my opinion, do not want to be in the Big 12. And there are 6 of them. And I'll just start off with the first two, Houston and SMU. The Big 12 does not need any more Texas schools. That is enough. Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Texas, that's enough. And I guess I can speak from the Oklahoma fan base's perspective. Losing the recruiting base of Houston would be really detrimental to schools like OU and Texas, and to a lesser extent OSU, Texas Tech, all the other schools that are wanting to recruit that area, because then you would have coaches telling recruits in Houston, hey, you don't have to go to OU or Texas anymore to go play in the big boy leagues. You can stay home. So the entire Big 12 would lose out a good portion of Houston recruits. So just the fact that there are enough Texas teams, there doesn't need to be just the fact there are enough Texas teams. We don't need any more. And on paper, yeah, you would add the Houston recruiting fan base, but the Big 12 has it already. I mean, they lost a little bit of it with A&M, but college football moves in cycles. A&M had their 2 or 3 years of hype recruiting after they smashed OU in the Cotton Bowl with Johnny Manziel, but that's starting to wear off with all their transfers. So college football is cyclical. So we will, but that's just my opinion. If you guys really want Houston or SMU, please be sure to comment and let me know, and I'll read them out to you. Market already saturated. Someone brought up Pittsburgh. I do have them in my absolutely yes category, but I'll get there in a second. Let me just go through the teams that I don't want. I went through SMU and Houston already. Boise State's the next one. Boise State is absolutely not in the absolutely not category. I actually lived in Idaho for 2 years, and while they have proven their worth time and time again in individual singular matchups against tougher competition, they are sadly just a step below program-wise in every Arkansas if the contracts were there. It's not far-fetched, but I think Arkansas has too bad of a taste in their mouth from the old Southwest Conference days to rejoin a Texas-dominant league. I'd love to play Boise State again. I'm sure a lot of OU fans would love to play Boise State again. I still have nightmares about that because, like I said, I lived in Idaho for 2 years, just 20 or 30 minutes south of Boise, and I lived there just prior to that Fiesta Bowl. And man, did my friends not, I didn't hear the end of it after that Fiesta Bowl. But it's not just the step down in program with Boise State. Boomer Sooner, Crazy Spark, thank you for joining. It's not just the step down in program, in just their program, excuse me. You have to also think about travel. West Virginia, they would pretty much... They're almost on a different hemisphere compared to West Virginia. And then everybody else, it would be a complete travel nightmare. There's no historical basis to join. Boomer Center 640, thank you for joining. There's no historical basis in that area at all with any of the Big 12 teams other than the fact that OU and Boise State have played before. You're not going to add any recruiting. You're not going to add any huge markets. Boise, while it is a fun city and it's growing just like Oklahoma City is, it's still a lower tier city in terms of population, if you're just speaking in terms of football and recruiting. So that's Boise State. The other three I have are Northern Illinois, UConn, and ECU as absolutely not. Northern Illinois for basically the same reason as Boise State, except for the travel, obviously. Just a step down program-wise. It would just seem like, okay, the Big 12 is just trying to add X or Y team just so they can have 12 teams. And if you're going to add teams, I feel like you need to give it the respect that it deserves. You need to add a team that's not just going to add football, but, I mean, as we saw in this past basketball season, the Big 12 is either 1A or 1B, the best conference in the entire country. So you want to add something that's going to add stock to the conference in anything, in everything, just not just football. UConn, simply for travel for everyone else not named West Virginia. I know there's this idea that if you can just tap into the Northeastern market, it would benefit the Big 12 in some ways, and it would. But no one cares about UConn football. That is a basketball part of the country. Nobody cares. Baseball, not enjoyable. To some people, it's very enjoyable. I personally, I'll say this. Baseball is the funnest sport to play, but I can't watch it on TV. It's fun to be at the ballpark, but it's just not for me on TV. Just because they be on TV does not mean anyone will watch. That's true. I mean, Kansas and Rutgers were televised last year, and I think I skipped that. If that was on right now, I would skip it. The last one on the no list was East Carolina. And I'll admit they're a little intriguing. They do have a very passionate fan base. Their baseball program is very respectable. Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma's offensive coordinator, came from there. They have proven to be up to the challenge when they played Power 5 talent. I think they've beaten Virginia Tech 2 or 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years. They've been impressive in their bowl games. And they usually have really nice skill position players. And, I mean, Chris Johnson, I think he plays for the Arizona Cardinals now. He's from East Carolina, so they'll have players, but since they're in such close proximity to West Virginia, it would be good for West Virginia, but you would still have East Carolina as a straight party school. Yes, they do lead. Yeah, Ray Reigns, they do lead in GOS attendance, which I found very interesting. But other than them being so close to West Virginia, you still have that huge gap from the Plains, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, then a whole bunch of nothing, and then West Virginia, East Carolina. So it's just one run game in Norman against OSU. OSU down 1 run. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Baseball. OU's down 1? Or OSU, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. None of these schools make the conference stronger. And that's exactly right. None of these schools that I mentioned made the conference stronger. That's why they're in the no category. The only thing I said about ECU is that they're at least intriguing. Out of all the no categories, they're at least intriguing. OU is down. Okay. Thank you for the update. I have 4 schools in a maybe category. The 2 Florida schools, USF and UCF. And I didn't get to read it. I just saw the headline, so I don't even know if it's actually true. But apparently UCF, somebody wrote a column on how they would benefit the Big 12. If anybody read that or saw that and it's actually true, please share it. The thing with USF and UCF, again, they're a step down in program, but how they would help the conference is obviously a foothold in Florida recruiting. And, I mean, we've seen UCF and USF have they have the capabilities to be successful. At one point in 2007, I think USF was either number 2 or number 3. I remember they had beaten West Virginia, who was ranked number 2. They should add Clemson and or Florida State. Now, that would be a dream come true, but Clemson I don't think really wants to leave. They're way too successful to want to change anything. I have read that Florida State is a little unhappy in the ACC, but I still don't see that happening. It's a pipe dream. USF no stadium and started football in '99. Yeah, that's true. They were started by, I believe, they were jump-started, I believe, by former OU Sooner great Leroy Selman, which is why USF and OU played each other in Norman in 2002, I believe. Yeah. Vontae 2 times. Thank you for joining. But yeah, USF, UCF, I put them in the maybe category. All the benefits I just mentioned, a foothold in Florida. They are solid programs, but travel, the Big 12 would be all over the map in a bad way. They would be fun travel destinations. Driving to Florida is it's a fun ride, driving through the South. But again, you'd have 9 teams in the Plains, 1 team out in West Virginia, or 7 teams out in the Plains, excuse me. Um, I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. Screw it. You would have teams all in the Plains, 1 team up in West Virginia, and 2 teams in Florida. It doesn't look pretty. It could work, but that's why they're in the maybe category. The 3rd team is Colorado State. Michael, thanks for joining, brother. Appreciate it. Colorado State. Call me a little nostalgic. I kind of miss Colorado, and it's just because of the old Big 8, watching old Big 8 film of, what was his name? What was the Colorado coach that won them a national title? It wasn't Gary Barnett, was it? No. How do you comment? You just commented. Bill McCartney, yeah. I'm sorry about that. Just watching old Big 8 tape on Bill McCartney and that 30 for 30 ESPN did recently. And it just seemed kind of fun to play Colorado. Obviously, their culture is just completely against football, apparently. They're into other things. But Colorado State has proven to have a solid program every once in a while. They were 10-3 2 years ago with Jim McElwain, and then he took the head job at Florida, and they faltered this past season. They do sell beer in their stadium, Colorado. It's a complete party state. It wouldn't be good for West Virginia. It would go well against what they're trying to do and find a travel partner somewhere in the middle. Weed and dreadlocks. Weed and dreadlocks. That's what Colorado does. We should, at the University of Houston, add the University of Houston to the Big 12. I talked about that earlier. In my opinion, I don't want Houston in the Big 12 because there are enough teams in Texas in the conference. Colorado State actually trying to be a football school. Colorado State does actually try to be a football school. But yeah, I don't want Houston in the conference. Excuse me, because there are enough Texas schools, and from an OU fan standpoint, and pretty much every team in Texas would share this opinion, you don't want to lose recruits to Houston because they're in the Big 12 now. Not being undermined by insane admin or administrations or professors. That's probably correct. The last one on the list is a fan favorite, Brigham Young University. West Virginia needs a travel buddy partner. Exactly, y'all know what I mean. BYU. Now, obviously, this program does come with a lot of baggage. We won't play on Sundays. They have their own television network, which is pretty much what is dividing the Big 12 right now. I mean, David Bourne is really against the Longhorn Network, and I'm sure other ADs and presidents are against the Longhorn Network, except for, obviously, those in Austin. And who can blame them? If they're going to make a ton of money on something, then keep doing it. But you would hope football, as a football only member, that's probably what would happen. Which would I wouldn't like that because BYU usually have a solid basketball program. Does not fit West Virginia travel partner. Yeah, and that's true. That's what I was going to say. That's why they're in the maybe and not the I want them in the conference category. It doesn't help West Virginia's cause at all. Again, just the same with Colorado State. It would be that much further of a travel destination for them. And even a lot of Big 12 fans, because Colorado at least borders a Big 12 state. 2 inches of Colorado touches the panhandle of Oklahoma. So, yeah, ESPN lost a lot of money, but Texas they're not hurting. But yeah, Provo, Utah is all the way out there. And I was going to get to that. That's, I guess I'll just cut it off right there with BYU. The yes category, and I'll start with Pittsburgh because they've been mentioned a few times. Texas making $8 million a year, though. Yeah. It's amazing. They can be incredibly mediocre and average and still make a ton of money. But that's Texas football. But anyway, the yes category, Pittsburgh has been mentioned a few times, and I would really, really, really like that. One, they have a solid program historically. Yes, Pittsburgh. Only issue is that Pitt just now joined the ACC. Yeah. Well, you try to appeal to their emotions, I guess, if you're the Big 12 bigwigs. You try to appeal to, let's bring back the backyard brawl. Blue Wolf 88, thank you for joining. Let's bring back the old backyard brawl. Those West Virginia Pitt games were like awesome to watch. If you have time, go on YouTube, watch some highlights. They were really fun games. It gives West Virginia a travel partner. It makes them feel more ingrained. Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino, good history. Yeah. Pittsburgh has 70s and the 80s were, I guess, their golden years, and they've fallen off in the 90s and obviously in the 2000s. They also had Larry Fitzgerald, who, I love you, Jason White. There is an argument that Larry Fitzgerald probably deserved that Heisman in 2003. But Maryland got out, possible for Pitt to do the same. Yeah, that's true. As we've seen with all this conference realignment, nothing is ever set in stone. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Big 12 could approach Pittsburgh, try to appeal to their emotions, give them a plan, tell them that this would be more beneficial to them than being a bottom feeder in the ACC, and hopefully join the conference. And other than, helping out West Virginia, there is some great talent recruiting-wise up there that the Big 12 will be able to tap into finally. But other than that, it's a good name school. It's a solid name program. OSU is playing Pittsburgh, I believe, this year. Are they playing in Stillwater, or are they actually playing in Pittsburgh? So someone let me know. Anytime you have a program like that on your schedule, it's a game that raises some eyebrows, no matter how down they are. It's just because they have a solid fan base, solid program historically. So I think they could bring a lot, not just on the field, but off the field to the Big 12. The other one, and it's one that I mentioned, you even got a few studs out of the East Coast. Yeah, that's true. Tori Bradford, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Pitt beat Notre Dame 2 years ago. Yes, a lot of people beat Notre Dame 2 years ago. Pitt game in Stilly. Okay. We can chalk that up as a win for Oklahoma State. The next team is Memphis, and I mentioned them last night on the Periscope. Back on campus, or about to be, I think. Okay, good. I mentioned Memphis last night. I love their program in both football and basketball. Obviously, their basketball program is probably much more consistent than their football program. They've proven to be solid every once in a while once they have the right coaching. But mainly, travel destination. It's right in the middle between West Virginia and the rest of the Big 12. Recruiting. The SEC they were able to gain a foothold in Texas so much more. Steven Adams. Oh, yeah. Steven Adams is from Pittsburgh, too. Current Oklahoma City Thunder center. He played a semester at Pittsburgh. But anyway, with Memphis, you got travel right in between the rest of the Big 12 schools and West Virginia. But then recruiting, when A&M left to the SEC was able to gain a foothold in Texas. So I see this as a complete, kind of, well, you did this, so we're going to do this. Let's go get a foothold in SEC country. Schools like OU and Texas, as good as they are having a ton of trouble trying to get the top-tier talent out of states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia. They've had their success with some players, but I feel like if you were to add Memphis, you could at least tell these recruits, we're not just going to play our games in Texas far away. We're going to be all over the map, close to home, play big boy brand of football. So come and join the party. Memphis is a fun town. It's obviously the barbecue, and I'm sure we're all huge fans of that. Their fan base is pretty passionate for a smaller school. It's just, I mean, again, it's just my opinion. If you guys disagree, please let me know. I mean, I'm not as familiar with Memphis's program, what they bring off the field in terms of money, markets, those types of things. So if anyone else is a little bit more knowledgeable on the subject, please be sure to comment. And then the last one is an oft-mentioned program in Cincinnati. Basketball-wise would be great. Football-wise would be a solid addition. You'd add a foothold in Ohio. One of the highest murder rates in the United States. Memphis or Cincinnati? Anyway, you'd add a foothold in Ohio, which has a plethora of talent. And I kind of have a problem with it just because Memphis. Okay. Well, that's kind of scary. I kind of have a problem with wanting Cincinnati because I just see it as a complete reaction to the Big 12 missing out on Louisville, which was obviously a mistake. Thank you for the love, Pasty Hispanic. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Pasty. I just see it as a reaction to missing out on Louisville. Cincinnati has had their successful runs in recent years. I just don't see it. Now, I will say that I'm sure Raider Rannings would love it, have a crack at Tommy Tuberville, considering was he the one that just ditched recruits at a dinner to go take the job at Cincinnati? Was it him? But anyway, it was him. That's sad. Anyway. But yeah, I have Pittsburgh, Memphis, and Cincinnati as the three teams that I see. You'd only be adding Memphis for recruiting purposes. If you're going to do that, add Tulane. I'll agree with that. Brian Kelly started Cincinnati off. Yeah, he did. He had, I guess, the successful run at Cincinnati that I was mentioning earlier. Yeah, if you're just going to do Memphis, you might as well do Tulane. The reason why I pick Memphis is just because they've been more successful recently, and then also they bring more other than football. Yeah, I'm sure Tuberville is going to be fired regardless of if he ditched that dinner with those recruits or not. How much prestige does a school named after a city bring? On paper, it doesn't add a lot. And also on paper, it looks like the Big 12 is scraping the bottom of the barrel. But, I mean, as we've seen in football, just because you have Sooners on your jersey or the Longhorn emblem on your helmet doesn't mean you're going to win. It just comes down to players and motivation. And, I mean, how many people thought TCU would be in the running for the Big 12 Conference a few years after joining the league? So it just really comes down to motivation. If a program is able to join a Power 5 school, they're gonna increase their motivation. Memphis is Tulane with less market and crappy academics. Again, I'm not as familiar with Memphis as a program, so I appreciate all the information. But again, the only reason why I say Memphis over Tulane is because of the obvious in-between with West Virginia and the rest of the Big 12. And what was I going to say? I can't. I just tell you. Being a more solid program overall other than just football. Because their basketball program, when Calipari was there, yeah, Baylor used to be horrible. And I've got a feeling like they might in a year or so. But yeah, when Calipari was at Memphis, they played the national championship in basketball. So they would add more than just recruiting purposes, I feel like, personally. And then, of course, there's the dream scenario, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and that would be Florida State and Clemson. In a perfect world for OU, Nebraska comes back and Arkansas joins. Won't happen, but that would be cool. Yeah, in terms of travel logistics, that would make the most sense. And OU fans are always going to be nostalgic for the Nebraska series to be back again. Yep, they'll be back soon enough. What's Missouri's year going to be like? Well, I think Missouri's going to start off with a loss. I think they open up with West Virginia, or it's the second game. I can't remember, but they do travel to Morgantown to play the Mountaineers, and I predict that as a loss. I will say it'd be interesting to watch Missouri play this year because former OU national title quarterback and offensive coordinator Josh Heupel is now calling the plays there. So you can probably bet the farm that there'll be about 3 or 4 games where Missouri has blown all 3 of their timeouts in the first quarter and the third quarter. So just pay attention to that. It'd be funny to watch. Nebraska should come back. They won't. There's too much money to be left on the table. But for them, as a football program, losing recruiting in Texas is killing them. It's sad to watch because, and again, as an OU fan, we all have great respect for the program at Nebraska, and it's sad to watch them just sputter around. Notre Dame is leeching off the ACC. Yeah, no argument here. Notre Dame is just kind of a leech. Let's see. How? Are you asking me or Boomer Center 640? Let's get on this. Yeah, even this guy doesn't want BYU or he really doesn't want Memphis. I'm trying to read some other articles on this subject. Nog Bucks, thanks for joining. Appreciate that. But anyway, those are all my school. I mean, I guess I didn't really talk about Florida State or Clemson. I did read something that Florida State, I did read that Florida State is a little upset with their current situation in the ACC. I don't know how upset they would have to be to just say, screw this, we're out of this Power 5 conference. Let's go join this perceived lesser Power 5 conference. I don't know what it would take for that to happen. But, man, that would be a lot of fun. Pac-12, Big 12 merger, or at least agreement for cross-scheduling probably going to be proposed. That's what should have happened 4 or 5 years ago whenever this all got kicked off. What's my view on super conferences happening? I'd love for it to happen. I'd love for there to be just an upper echelon league of four power conferences, north, south, east, west. Go at it. It'd make more sense with 4 frigging playoff slots. But I think that's, without getting specific, I think that's the wave of the future. I think in 15 or 20 years, if we were to fast forward our lives right now, what we would see in the fall on Saturdays would be completely different than what we know for college football, because the money is heading that, and follow the money is heading that way. It wants super conferences bigger than what they are now. Playoffs will be 8 teams soon. I think, well, they're under contract for, I think, almost 10 years for 4. And I know contracts can be broken, but it seems pretty adamant to stay at 4 for the time being. Does an 8-team playoff fix everything? No, because there's going to be a 9th and a 10th team that bitch and moan and want to get in. There's always going to be people that want, feel they deserve. It would definitely help. I mean, if you have 5 Power 5 conferences and 4 slots, that just already doesn't. It makes my head hurt. I mean, it does. Again, with the BCS, as bad as it was, man, it made college football discussion so much fun. It made it so much fun to try and understand. And if you got a hold of it in your head, it was it made the games so enjoyable late in the season because you kind of understood how the system was going to work. With this, and it's probably because it's only been around for 2 years now, But with this, you're depending on the thought processes of 50, 60, 70-year-old white men, mostly white men, who played football in an era where the forward pass was frowned upon in some areas of the country, and you're trying to evaluate, well, if X team beats Y team, maybe they'll jump up. But then someone else says, no, because blah, blah, blah. The committee doesn't appreciate the way that they play football. Super conferences say goodbye to the Big East whack. Hopefully. No, I don't. Why they got, why they got to be white? Because they are. Condoleezza Rice isn't, obviously. It's stupid. All conference champs should be in the Power 5. GOF highest rank should be in 2. I agree. Should that be kept? Should have kept BCS taking the 4. I like the BCS for all the reasons I just said. And I feel like you could have added a playoff into it. I just don't like having people's opinions base a playoff. If you're going to have a playoff, just have it be played in. You have the Power 5 champs and then one or two of the at-large smaller conference schools. And if you're going to have 2, then you have the number 1 team have a bye week. And then have the first round be played at home at the higher seeded team's home schedule or home stadium. That'd be a ton of fun. But no, that makes too much sense. And as we've seen in sports, sometimes in the administrative, the administrative field, what's logical and what seems the correct way to do things usually is not the case. Human polls are much more volatile than they were in the BCS. Yes, they are. But anyway, we'll have plenty of time to have periscopes on how flawed, frustrating, enraging, alcohol drinking inducing the college football committee is. On campus so much better. Yeah, I've always enjoyed that idea to have, if you're going to have a playoff with 8, 10, 12, however many teams, if it gets to that point, to have the first few games, instead of having them played at random bowl sites, to reward the higher seeded teams for having better years, having them being played at their home stadium. As a former OU season ticket holder, the thought of having a playoff game played in Norman in December, while it would be possibly a nightmare because of the winter, man, that'd be a great atmosphere, and that would be shared all over the country. If Oklahoma State was playing a playoff game in Stillwater, if West Virginia was, USC, if they were playing home games in December, that actually meant something, the atmosphere would just be so hype. Hoke it over committee now, though. Probably helps the Big 12. Yeah, I should have mentioned that, I guess, when we got into this, but I saw it as definitely kind of a PR move of the committee saying, hey, Big 12, we still care about you, and here's our proof. So hopefully it does actually bear some fruit, and the Big 12 gets a little bit more credit, more of the credit that it deserves. God, my allergies are killing me, so sorry I keep rubbing my nose. But anyway, wow, it's been 45 minutes. Does anybody else have any things they'd like to add? Division 2 and 3 play some great football, and D1 used to be, without all the crap. Yeah, the D2, D3 playoffs are really fun to watch on ESPN. Remember when OU played KSU at Arrowhead in the snow? That was fun. Yes. I have a lot of good memories, except for one, obviously, of OU and Kansas State playing the Big 12 title game in Arrowhead. But yeah, if you guys have any more comments or questions on expansion, just go ahead and fire them away. I guess I'll do this for another 5 minutes. The longer these videos are, the longer it takes to upload them, so. But I'm game. It's fun. You guys are a great help and really fun to talk to. No more water. Anyway, no one wants to say anything? I guess I'll just talk to myself now. What is this? Thanks for doing it. Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. If I get to talk about college football in the middle of April, I'm having a good day. So with each Periscope, each day, each week, we're getting closer, everyone. So just hold on tight, enjoy your summer, and we'll be there as soon as you know it. Have a good night, Raider Rannings. Appreciate it. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining this Periscope again. It was, last night was a lot of fun, and I think we even improved that by just enough tonight. Yes, thank you everyone for watching. We appreciate it. What's the kickoff game this year for college football? I have to check that. Is it Bama? It's Bama in like the Georgia Dome or Dallas, isn't it? It's always something like that. You always play a lesser Power 5 school so they can say, we play a Power 5 school. September 3rd. Let's see. I'll answer this and then I'll cut it off. So, Chris, sorry for watching. Yeah, it does make sense for them since they play in the most almighty conference in the history of sports. Let's go and load. Come on. Let's see. On the first day, we've got Clemson at Auburn. Alabama versus USC. Yeah, Alabama, USC in Dallas. Now, 5 years ago, this would have been awesome. But obviously, USC is in a complete and utter rebuild mode. So that's an easy win for Alabama. And then it's just going to be something that the committee says, well, remember when they beat USC at the beginning of the year? Yay! LSU, Wisconsin. We've seen this before. UCLA, Texas A&M, intriguing. It's at A&M, so I don't know about that for the Bruins. They're not a very good road team. LSU, Wisconsin is being played at Lambeau, so that'll at least be an interesting atmosphere to watch. College football game in Lambeau sounds like a football wet dream. Arizona versus BYU, interesting, but I'm sure not a lot of us will care. Houston and OU, I will be there. Periscoping, of course. Fresno State, Nebraska. Would have been cool if they were still in the conference. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Everybody, thank you so much for joining tonight. I really appreciate it. Land Grant Gauntlet, we all appreciate the sharing, the love, the interaction, the comments, and the questions. Again, you guys make this so much more fun. The first one that I did, I think I talked to one person. I think it was Patrick Gerhardt, which I didn't see him join tonight, so we could probably safely assume that he's dead. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think the first one I did, I only had one or two people on. And while it was still fun, it's amazing to see how quickly this thing's growing. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it and helping us out. But anyway, I'm starting to lose my voice. Need to go hang out with the dog. So, everybody, have a great night. Enjoy your evening, and go Big 12.